Welcome, everybody, to the first Iliad video. As far as reading the original Greek goes, to the best of our ability, I am going to direct you to video number 1 of Virgil's Aeneid in the original Latin that I made about a half hour ago. If you would go listen to the beginning of that video, and I'll actually put a link to that in the info part at the top right of the screen, so you can listen to the first few minutes of that because it applies both to Greek and to Latin. The meter, the scansion, as well as the freedom of word order applies to Homer as much as it does to Virgil. So pay attention to that aspect of that video as well. Then come back and let's get right into translating the beginning of the Iliad, first 16 lines. Menin aede teia pele iatio Achilleos. Okay, so the epsilon omega is swallowed up. When it comes to vowels proving themselves malleable, when it comes to whether 1 or 2 beats occurs in meter based upon the vowel or combination of vowels, whether it be a diphthong or something else, or simply some more idiosyncratic combination of vowels, really whatever works is what the poet is going to opportunize and just use what he has to in order to fit it within the meter, he or she. Sappho is no stranger to this idea. So we have the freedom of word order to start the entire epic, the first epic we have in Western civilization, the first epic we have from Greece. Menin is the very first word. Okay, the new tips you off that you're dealing with the accusative. And so we're beginning with an accusative word, as we will in the Odyssey, the kind of sequel to the Iliad, which will begin with andra, which is aner in the accusative. So they're both accusatives. And Virgil, in his Aeneid in Latin, will, as a good modeler of Homer, also begin with an accusative and then follow it up with another accusative, as I said in the Virgil video, thereby not necessarily improving on Homer, but at least trying to introduce or to inject something new into this idea of accusatives, thematically introducing the entire epic at the beginning of it. So Menin means what? Well, it means Manus, doesn't it? Anger, wrath, whatever it is Achilles is, at Agamemnon, that's what Manus is. Not being coy here, not being facetious. That's how to know what it means, is to see it in the context of its various uses. So Menin aede, okay, evocative, sing. Anger, sing, goddess, of the son of Peleus, that's a patronymic, of the son of Peleus, Achilles. So there's the beginning of the epic, letting you know what the theme of the epic is. Not about the Trojan War in general, that's the backdrop, nor even about Andra, the man, as it is about Odysseus in the Odyssey, but about the anger of a man. It's kind of metonymic of the man in the sense that Arma is, when it represents war at the beginning of the Aeneid. By the way, I delivered a talk at SDSU several years ago about the first couple lines of the Iliad, and I included it in my book, Before You Read Homer. It's the appendix. So if you're curious, go ahead and get that book. It's also good as a primer for mythology in general, but it can't hurt as a good supplement to what we're going to be doing in these next videos. All right, anger, sing, goddess, Theia, of the son of Peleus, Achilles, ulomenein. So here you go. You have Homer taking advantage of the highly inflected nature of his language to be able to put words pretty much wherever he wants to, with the important exception of things like prepositional phrases, where the preposition almost always precedes the object, or relative clauses where you have the relative pronoun preceding everything, usually, and so on. But for the most part, you're able to put isolated words anywhere you want to, at the very least. And that's what Homer's doing here. He is suspending the qualification of the anger to the second line, but not only the second line in a generic sense, but the very first word of the second line, thereby, as though it weren't already obvious, establishing ulomenen as just as emphatic as menen at the beginning of the preceding line. Now, when we talk about lines, you may or may not be aware that originally you did not see Homeric epic once it had been transcribed into script, whenever it was, no one knows exactly, in the lines we're used to. However, because of the meter, because of the 6 beats in the hexameter, it was apparent to the audience, to the listener, as well as to the reader. So, menen aede tea peleia dokeleos ulomenen, hemuria kaios algetheke. Ulomenen. So, you know that the ulomenen points back to the menen, and it means destructive. Okay? From olumi, to destroy. Right? Which, relative pronoun, muria kaios algetheke, pretty simple. Sent, right, from tithemi, sent muri, countless, algae, pains, to the Achaeans, to the Greeks. And one of the words used for Greeks, we'll get to others once they arise. Polastipthimus, and, okay, the question is whether you're adding polastipthimus to algae or not. Sent many pains, or sent many or countless pains to the Achaeans, and many strong souls. Did the anger ethike, or did the anger some other verb? Well, you need to go a little forward to see, and it's proiopsin, okay? Okay, and so sent forth many strong souls to Hades of heroes. Okay, so not strong souls of regular old human beings, but of heroes. And here again, we have an emphatic use of this noun, heroon, genitive plural. All right, so of the heroes, okay? Strong souls, which strong souls? Of heroes. So again, by putting this word at the beginning of the line, it gets across that it's emphatic, it's important, it's worthy of being isolated and mused on, pardon the pun, I guess, for a while. Autus de loria tuche kinesin. And tuche, made, right? Autus, them, the heroes, okay? Heloria cunesin. Spoils, the spoils, or made them spoils, for dogs. Oinoisi te passi dios titile to bule, and for many birds. So made the heroes, made them spoils for dogs and many birds. Dios titile to bule, and so the day gives us the ability to continue with the sentence while at the same time kind of cheating in the sense that if you didn't have the day, you could begin a new sentence with these words if you wished to. And the boule, and the counsel, from boulomai, and the counsel, the thing that is wanted, the thing that is willed. Dios, of Zeus, the genitive of Zeus, was completed from the root telos, meaning end, or literal, or the telos, the goal of something. And the counsel of Zeus was completed, was finished. Ex hu de ta prota diastetain erisante, or ex hu de ta prota diastetain erisante, from which indeed ta prota, from which indeed first, or at first, adverbial, meaning, first things first, at first, diastetain, stood apart, erisante, participle, in the dual, which is very rare enough not to be covered in first year Greek. There it is. Every blue moon you'll see a dual. And it's just a matter of knowing it's that outlier form that doesn't look familiar, and then you know it's the dual. So stood apart, something like in contention or contending, literally, fighting, in conflict, right? So Eris is the goddess who wasn't invited to the wedding of Peleus and Thetis and sent the golden apple, kind of the equivalent of the bouquet, throwing it in among the crowd, fought over by the three goddesses, Paris judging after Zeus says not that he won't do it, blah, blah, blah. All right. Atreides teanax andron kai dios Achilles. And the leader, the Lord, son of Atreus. So Lord, son of Atreus, another patronymic, just like Peleadios, son of Atreus, in other words, Agamemnon. And Dios, the not quite divine, but he is part divine in this case. But the, and by the way, notice the genitive of Zeus, Dios, same root as Dios here, meaning divine, but not always literally divine. But we can say that's divine, and we don't literally mean necessarily that it is. So that's the idea here. And divine Achilles. Now the question is, where does andron fit in? Is it simply what it could be, anax andreides, the Lord, son of Atreus, or do we put andron with anax, Lord of men? Yeah, looks like we do that, because it doesn't make as much sense, if any, to say divine of men, Achilles. Divine one of men, you can argue for, actually. So is it intended to go, is andron intended to go both with the son of Atreus and of Achilles? I don't think so. The Chi seems to rope them off pretty well as what seems to be meant to be understood as a single unit, anaxandron, remembering that all of these words were originally not separated from each other with the helpful training wheels of spaces between words that we take advantage of today. Tis tar svoe theon eridi xuneeke majestai. Who, and then the te is just a particle you see all the time. Usually, I hate to say this, you will ignore it, because I don't like ignoring things that are there. And I only hate to say it because it's not really true. If you read the original Greek, you are processing the te, if you know about Greek particles, which, by the way, Deniston's book, I think it's something like 500-600 pages of nothing but the subtle differences, and within each of the categories, the subtle differences between the particles and what they really mean in the various contexts in which they arise. Maybe 3 people in the world would be interested in reading that book all the way through. I haven't done so yet, so I'm not in that number necessarily, but it is a good reference work, and it's, if I'm not mistaken, back in print, so you can always get, I think, kind of expensive though. But anyway, Tays don't need to detain us for very long. Nor ara, which R here is short for, which is a nice segue into the fact that something I brought up the other day with a student. Get ready for, and this is more true for Homer even than Virgil, what we might call metrical opportunism, this lengthening of vowels or lopping them off and so on by Homer for the sake of fitting words into their proper metrical slots. It makes it a little less apparently miraculous to know that Homer is not in real time, supposedly. Who knows if it really is improvised? Some believe so, some not. So I won't get into that debate in these videos, maybe future ones. In fact, almost certainly future ones I will. But for now, suffice to say that get used to, what do I mean by metrical opportunism? Lopping off vowels, lengthening vowels in order for things to fit. And there are names for some of these alterations, these modulations for metrical expediency, but I am not going to ask you to identify them, to come up with them, because they are later grammarians' ways to categorize things that we don't need to know. We simply need to be able to internalize the meanings of these words in context without using the crutch of English to intermediate between the original Greek and the concepts we derive from it. And so it will happen so often, this lengthening of vowels and lopping them off, that I won't even bother sometimes to bring it up unless it's difficult to understand the sentence without doing so. Tis tarsfoe peon eridi xeneike majestai. Who, and just as in the prose videos I made last semester and posted on YouTube, so here in verse, we should look around for a nominative if we wish to demystify the syntax of a given sentence. And here we have an unequivocal interrogative pronoun, tis, who, tar. So, who, tar. So now what is the verb? Xuneike. Sent together, right? Sent together, machestai, to fight. Right? So, who of the gods, Theon, sent what? What do you expect? You expect a direct object, don't you? Oh, darn. There's no accusative, is there? Yes, there is. Svoe. Look that up. Pronoun, weird pronoun, epic pronoun. You're not going to see it in prose. There are plenty of words of the type that only occur in poetry, and that's one of the main, if not the main, thing that you look for in a lexicon to differentiate from in terms of vocabulary. Is this a word that is used in prose? Is it used in verse? Is it used in both? In this case, pretty much only in epic, unless it's being quoted or something like that. So, who sent them, svoe, together, so you have the ksun, to fight, machestai, eridi, in Eris. Okay, so just as we pointed out a echoing of Dios on line 5, on line 7 with Dios, so here we have an echoing of Eris, which occurred, you guessed it, 2 lines above. Coincidence? Who knows? So erisante, you need to know the root eris, and here you have eris in the dative, eridi, threw them together to fight, and then with respect to eris, conflict. Okay? So the son of Leta and Zeus. Who's that? Well, that's Apollo, isn't it? So Apollo is angry. Why did he send them together to fight, Achilles and Agamemnon? Well, there's a story to it, isn't there? For cholothes, angry, having become angered, literally, with the king. All right, so if the king of kings, appointed by the Greeks for the expedition to Troy to retaliate for the, I don't know if we need to put quotes around it or not, but kidnapping of Helen, because it looked like, at least in the movie Troy, maybe I'm a little bit biased by that. Maybe I've allowed it to seep into my mind, but it's at least debatable whether or not Helen went willingly with Paris to Troy. But anyway, we'll give the benefit of the doubt to this idea. The son of Leto and Zeus, in other words, Apollo, he, angry with the king, angry with Agamemnon, did what? Orse, okay? Ornumi is an important verb in especially poetic Greek, meaning set in motion, something like that. set in motion, anastraton, literally upon the army or throughout the army. Nuson, a disease, right? A cocaine disease, or a kakes disease, all right? So, or kake disease. So, we don't get the cocaine until 3 words after nuson, although it qualifies it. Why would that be? Well, to prolong that idea, for one thing. Nuson, anastraton, or say cocaine, thereby emphasizing the qualification of nuson by withholding it, by suspending its resolution, and by doing so, here we go again, sustaining a kind of suspense, although it's not plot-driven. It's not plot related, but rather style related. It's a matter of when you let the reader know or the listener know what the disease is like, and it is bad. Well, the canto de laioi, okay, and the people were dying. Punica, because, look for the verb, because dishonored, from time, meaning honor, more or less. It really means time. There's a lot to honor. Dishonored, who did? Well, I'm not telling you yet, Homer says. Why? Oh, I don't know, something called emphasis. Next line, Atreides, son of Atreus. Oh, okay. So that's who, Timosen. Ton Chryses. Chryses, the great Chryses. Okay, the name of the priest of Apollo. Aretera, meaning priest. All right, so it's connected to the word meaning are, meaning prayer. So the one who initiates prayers for the people. Hogar elthe thoas epi neos achaion. For he went toward epi, not into, not anything. Toward is what epi means here. Toward the ships. Oh, sorry, the swift ships, theos, of the Achaeans, of the Greeks. Okay, we already saw Achaios on line 2. Lusomenos te tu ga traferon taperesi apoina. Seeking to free, seeking to be about to free his daughter, and to carry aperesia apoina, the alpha left off to allow it to fit in the meter. Aparesi, so countless gifts or things intended to trade for what he wants done, which is his daughter to be freed. Stemat echon, holding fillets, wreaths in his hands of far darting, far throwing, literally from bellow, Apollo. Anas keptro chryseo, upon a golden scepter, and prayed to all of the Achaeans. Most of all, Malista. And then the day here, although it can sometimes be and, sometimes but, that is, sometimes mean and sometimes be adversative. In this case, seems to be and. Or but, I mean, gosh, which one is it? There is some ambiguity here, and as quite often is the case. And or but, most of all, the 2 sons of Atreus, right? Menelaus and Agamemnon. Kosmetore laon, leaders or chaperones or those who keep things together. Cosmetics comes from the same root. Cosmos, arrangement. So, arrangers of the, or shepherds of the people.